This is the story of the people who came from the vast grasslands, known as the steppes, and built the largest empire in history. It is the story of Temujin, who later became known as Genghis Khan. The early history of the Mongols, who lived in the eastern part of the Asian steppe, remains unclear, and historians still debate many details. In the early 10th century, a group called the Khitan, who spoke a Proto-Mongolic language, created an empire known as the Great Liao. The Khitans fought many battles in regions like Korea, China, and Central Asia. However, by the year 1125, they were defeated by the Chinese Jin dynasty. After their defeat, they moved west and formed a new state called Western Liao. Meanwhile, in what is today Mongolia, several nomadic tribes came together to form a union called Khamag Mongol, which means whole Mongol. One of the important clans in this confederation was the Borjigin, and its leaders were often chosen to be Khans, leaders of the entire union. However, in the 12th century, Khamag Mongol was engaged in a long conflict with a rival group called the Tatar Confederacy. This weakened the Mongols, and their union nearly collapsed in the latter half of the 12th century. At this time, the Borjigin clan was led by a chief named Yesugei. In 1171, he tried to reunite the tribes by arranging a marriage between his 9-year-old son, Temujin, and Berte, the daughter of a nearby clan's chief. According to some sources, Yesugei was poisoned by the Tatars during the wedding celebrations. After his father's death, Temujin tried to take over as chieftain, but was rejected and forced into exile with his family. For the next 6 years, Temujin lived in poverty and was even enslaved at times. Eventually, Temujin began to gather followers and rebuild his tribe. He had help from his close friend, Jamuka, and the leader of the Karaite tribe, Togrul Khan. Together, Temujin and Jamuka raided other tribes. However, their friendship did not last. Jamuka supported the traditional Mongol aristocracy, while Temujin promoted talented individuals regardless of their background or tribal affiliation. Jamuka, feeling threatened by Temujin's growing power, attacked him in 1187 with an army of 30,000 men. Temujin, with only 20,000 men, was defeated at the Battle of Dalan Baljut. Little is known about Temujin's life over the next 10 years. However, in 1197, he led a united force of Mongols and the Karaite tribe in a war against the Tatars, a conflict that had been initiated by the Jin dynasty. In this war, Temujin avenged his father's death. The leaders of the Tatar tribes were executed, while common people were invited to join Temujin's ranks. He distributed leadership roles based on merit and loyalty, not family ties. To motivate his followers, he promised them a share of the spoils from their victories. These new rules laid the groundwork for a legal code that would later govern his vast empire. Temujin's father's death played a big role in shaping the man he would become. One of the important laws Genghis Khan introduced was that hospitality was sacred. This meant that guests and messengers were to be protected and never harmed. Temujin brought many changes to the world of the steppes. Each victory attracted more warriors to his side, and he began to transform the Mongols into a highly organized army. He introduced the decimal system, dividing the army into groups of tens, hundreds, thousands, and tens of thousands. It was forbidden for soldiers to transfer between units, and if one man deserted, the other 9 in his group were executed. Most commanders were chosen by their men, except for the commanders of the 10,000-strong units called Tumen, who were personally selected by the Khan. This structure allowed flexibility, discipline, and loyalty, making it easier for the Mongol army to carry out complex maneuvers. Every able-bodied man was required to be part of this system. In 1201, a group of rival clans held a council, known as a Kurultai, and declared Jamuka as their Khan. This sparked a 5-year war between him and Temujin. Eventually, Temujin defeated his former blood brother in the Battle of the 13 Sites, which took place that same year. Following this, Temujin called for his own Kurultai where he was declared the leader of all Mongols and given the title Genghis Khan, meaning universal ruler. For the first time, the warring tribes of the steppe were united under one banner and leadership. In 1209, the Mongols launched their first invasion against a powerful neighboring state, Western Sia, located to the southwest. Though the details of this conflict are unclear, Genghis Khan won the open battles but faced challenges when attacking the heavily fortified cities. This campaign taught the Mongols the value of siege warfare as they slowly starved the city into submission, forcing the Sia emperor to become Genghis Khan's vassal. Up to this point, the Jin dynasty had not taken the Mongols seriously, seeing them only as a minor nuisance along their northern border. They even ignored a request for help from the Liao, but by 1211, the Jin realized the Mongols were a growing threat and demanded their submission, which led to war. In March 1211, Genghis Khan called a meeting of all Mongol chieftains to prepare for an invasion of China. The Jin dynasty had a huge population and mobilized around 800,000 infantry, most of whom were untrained peasants with low morale. They also had 150,000 well-trained heavy cavalry. However, their forces were spread thin across the Great Wall and in various garrisons and fortresses. In contrast, the Mongols had a much smaller but more effective army of 90,000 cavalrymen. These soldiers were divided into three main groups: light cavalry scouts, horse archers armed with composite bows, and heavy cavalry equipped with lances and curved swords. All Mongol warriors were highly trained and fiercely loyal. After bypassing the ineffective Great Wall, the Mongols split into two armies. Genghis Khan led the main force of 60,000 men, while his son Ogedei led the remaining 30,000 to attack the city of Datong. Genghis Khan aimed for the strategically important Juyong Pass, which protected Beijing, but was halted at Yehuling Pass, where the bulk of the Jin army waited. For months, the Mongols waited for the Jin to make a move, but they remained in place. During this time, Genghis sent two of his trusted generals, Jebe and Subutai, to attack the Jin's western front from behind at the Battle of Wusha Fortress. Their surprise assault crushed the Jin forces, and they regrouped with Genghis's main army. With reinforcements, the Mongols attacked the Jin at Yehuling Pass, using the mountainous terrain to their advantage. Genghis even sent some of his men over the steep peaks, which the Jin generals thought was impossible. The Mongols attacked from both sides, surrounding the Jin army. Jebe used a classic Mongol tactic known as the feigned retreat. After a short skirmish, the Mongols pretended to flee, leaving behind loot. The Jin forces, thinking they had won, abandoned their defenses to chase the retreating Mongols, only to fall into a trap. They were ambushed and overwhelmed by Mongol archers. With the gates to China now open, Genghis Khan led raids across the countryside before withdrawing for the winter. The following year, the Mongols struck again, this time besieging the city of Datong. Genghis Khan was wounded by an arrow during the siege, but the city held out, forcing the Mongols to retreat once more for the winter. However, each campaign gave the Mongols more experience in siege warfare and more knowledge of their enemies. In 1213, the Mongols launched another invasion. Their superior mobility prevented the Jin from organizing any effective defense as the Mongols raided the countryside. The Mongols began besieging multiple fortresses and cities, waiting for the enemy to attempt a breakout, only to ambush and defeat them each time. Although the Mongols were fighting on foreign land, they excelled at guerrilla tactics. In the cities that surrendered, most of the population was killed or enslaved, but skilled individuals like engineers, artisans, merchants, doctors, teachers, priests, and administrators were spared and invited to join the Mongol ranks. Some of the captives were even forced to march in front of the Mongol army during sieges, serving as human shields to discourage enemy archers from shooting. After securing control of all Jin lands north of the Yellow River, Genghis Khan turned his attention to the capital, Beijing, which he besieged. The Mongols attempted to starve the city into submission, but after several months, an epidemic broke out in their camp, forcing them to negotiate with the Jin Emperor Xuanzong. A peace agreement was reached, with the Jin agreeing to pay a tribute of loot, men, horses, and the emperor's daughter, along with submitting to the Mongols. The Mongols left China and returned to Mongolia with their spoils. However, shortly after crossing the Great Wall, Genghis Khan received word that the Jin Emperor had moved his court to Kaifeng, signaling that they were preparing for retaliation. Enraged by this act of defiance, Genghis Khan quickly turned his army around and returned to Beijing. With the help of thousands of Chinese engineers, the Mongols surrounded, breached, and destroyed the city. The fires burned for over a month, and its people were massacred. What had once been a minor threat had now brought a mighty empire to its knees. With China defeated, Genghis Khan's attention turned westward. One of the defeated tribes from earlier, the Naimans, had a prince named Kuchlug, who had fled west after his tribe's defeat in 1205. After being defeated by Genghis Khan once again, Kuchlug fled to the Western Liao Empire, also known as the Kara Kitai. The empire welcomed him, and Kuchlug eventually married the daughter of its emperor, Zhilugu. However, 2 years later, Kuchlug rebelled against his father-in-law and seized control of the empire. In 1216, Kuchlug attacked the city of Al-Malik, which was under Mongol protection. This would soon bring the wrath of Genghis Khan. Genghis sent one of his top generals, Jebe, to deal with Kuchlug. In 1218, Jebe defeated him in the Battle of Balasagun, marking a significant victory. Within 2 years, the Mongols completely absorbed the Kara Kitai Empire into their growing dominion. The Mongols now shared a border with the powerful Khwarezmian Empire, a Persianate Turkic state. Eager to establish trade and diplomacy, Genghis Khan sent a caravan filled with valuable gifts to Shah Muhammad II of Khwarezm. However, the governor of Otrar, a city in the empire, accused the Mongol caravan of being spies. The governor, Inalchuk, had the merchants arrested and executed, breaking the code of hospitality, which was sacred to Genghis Khan. Enraged by this betrayal, Genghis sent 3 ambassadors to Shah Muhammad II to demand justice. The Shah not only refused, but also had one of the ambassadors executed. This act of hostility convinced Genghis Khan that war was inevitable. He began preparing for his retribution by gathering intelligence from the Silk Road, assembling expert siege engineers from China, and developing a strategy to invade Khwarezm. His plan was to divide his army into 3 columns, a tactic that would confuse and overwhelm his enemies. Though the numbers are debated, historians generally agree that Genghis Khan's forces numbered around 100,000 troops, compared to Khwarezm's 60,000. In the winter of 1219, Genghis sent his eldest son, Jochi, and General Jebe with 20,000 men through the Tian Shan Mountains to attack the Fergana Valley. This risky move succeeded in outmaneuvering the Khwarezmians, who believed that this smaller force was Genghis Khan's main army. At the same time, Genghis's second and third sons, Chagatai and Ogadai, led another force through the Dzungarian Gate, besieging the city of Otrar, which had a garrison of 20,000 soldiers. After 5 long months, a deserter opened the gates of Otrar, allowing the Mongols to storm the city. Otrar became the first of many cities to be either annihilated or enslaved by the Mongols. Inalchuk, the governor who had initiated the conflict, was captured and gruesomely executed. Molten silver was poured into his eyes and ears, a brutal act that symbolized Genghis's rage. Shah Muhammad II had been preparing his capital, Samarkand, for a defense, but Genghis Khan tricked him by leading his forces across the vast and treacherous Kizilkum Desert. This daring and unexpected maneuver took the Khwarezmian forces by surprise. Genghis's troops soon arrived at the gates of Bukhara. The city's defenses were weak, and when its defenders attempted to meet the Mongols in open battle, they were quickly overrun and massacred. The next target was Samarkand, the Khwarezmian capital. In March 1220, the Mongols began their assault on the city, using prisoners as human shields. On the third day, the garrison, including its war elephants, attempted a counterattack, but fell for Genghis Khan's infamous tactic of feigned retreat. The Mongols drew the defenders out of their fortifications and slaughtered them in the open plains. Despite Shah Muhammad II's efforts to reinforce the city, the Mongols continued their relentless attack. After 5 days, Samarkand fell, and nearly the entire population of 100,000 was either killed or enslaved.